It was 1 year ago today that the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic, upending life as we knew it then. The last 12 months have been marked by unimaginable loss, topping 530,000 deaths in the U.S. alone. That is more than one death every minute since the pandemic began. The economic toll has also been immense. This week, Congress passed a $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill with only Democratic support. And this afternoon, President Biden signed it into law.
This historic legislation is about rebuilding the backbone of this country and giving people in this nation, working people, middle-class folks, people who built the country, a fighting chance. That's what the essence of it is.
We'll get some details of what to expect from President Biden's address later in the program from our Yamiche Alcindor. But first, we want to delve into the new COVID relief law. And we get two views, starting with the Senate's top Republican, Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky. Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, thank you very much for joining us. The bill President Biden signed today, you have said it's the worst piece of legislation you've seen pass in your time in the Senate. And yet it helps working class Americans. There is support in it for the unemployed. There is support for healthcare workers and for schools. And the polls are showing 70% of Americans like it. Why are they wrong?
Well, look, I'm not surprised that the American public's initial reaction to this, before they know what's in it, would be positive. I mean, the thought of many Americans getting a $1,400 check, why would they not like that? But let's look at the history of the pandemic, which really started about a year ago. We passed 5 bills last year, Judy, 5 of them, the biggest one being the CARES Act, on a bipartisan basis. Not a single one of them got more than 8 votes in opposition. We just 2 months ago passed one of those 5, $900 billion. It's not even out the door yet. And yet the new administration wants to go back as if nothing has happened in the last year and do another bill that the president will sign today, the size of the bill we did a year ago at the height of the epidemic. So I understand why the American people's initial response to this is positive. What they do not know is how much of the bill has nothing to do with the pandemic. Less than 1% of it deals with vaccinations. Only about 9% of it deals with health care. All the rest of it is unrelated to the problem it's designed to address.
Well, Senator, the administration has been candid to say the bill is about the economy. They point out tens of millions of Americans are still unemployed. They say that this bill would take something like 13 million Americans, lift them out of poverty, reduce child poverty in half. Are you saying you oppose those things?
What I'm saying is the economy is about to come roaring back. What the administration is trying to do here, Judy, is to get in front of the parade so they can take credit for what's already happening based upon what we've already done. The economy is just going to have a fabulous year. It has nothing to do with this massive Democratic wish list of items that their various constituencies want.
Well, the administration, Senator, says they are aware of the projections about the economy, but they still believe that these are necessary to help people who are the most in need in this country. And when it comes to the debt, we know you mentioned future generations paying for this. Under President Trump, the debt was something like $8 trillion almost. So you're not saying that's something that's only okay under a Republican president, are you?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that last year it was clearly justified based upon the pandemic. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been passed overwhelmingly on a bipartisan basis. But what they're trying to do this year, it's noteworthy, received not a single Republican vote in the House or Senate. You have to ask yourself, why? Why? Because this year is not last year. The economy is on the way back. This is going to be a great year for the American people. New jobs are going to lift people out of poverty. And so it just simply did not fit, Judy, the condition we find ourselves in March of 2021, which is not the condition we found ourselves in March of 2020.
Senator, another piece of legislation, important piece of legislation heading toward the Senate has to do with election reform, with creating a national standard for voting. The advocates, people who are for this say it was necessitated by what state legislatures are doing to restrict voting in a way that would primarily affect voters of color. What is your, at this point, what is your view of this?
Well, it's another bill that passed with not a single Republican vote, and the reason for it is, even though it's styled as somewhat related to what they call voter suppression, what I read the states are doing is restoring some of the voting practices that existed before the pandemic. In other words, simply eliminating some of the emergency provisions that were there during the pandemic. This is an outrageous one-party takeover of the way we conduct elections in this country, and there will be overwhelming, total Republican opposition to it in the Senate, just like there was in the House.
And Senator, just quickly, that raises the question of the Senate rule known as the filibuster. It's something that you changed the rule around in 2017 when it came to the Supreme Court confirmation for Neil Gorsuch. Democrats may try to do the same thing in the weeks and months to come.
A totally different issue. The Senate has two calendars, the executive calendar, nominations, the House is not in the personnel business, and the legislative calendar. The executive calendar, for most of the history of the country, was operated as a simple majority. Then the Democrats started filibustering nominations, which was never done before, and we did go back and forth on that over the last 20 years, but now we're back to where we were at the beginning of Bush 43's administration, the executive calendar done with a simple majority. That's not been the case for legislation. The legislative filibuster has been there for a very long time. Our Democratic friends in the minority last year used it frequently to stop things that we might have wanted to do. Now they're threatening to blow the place up and turn the Senate into the House so that they can get their way with presumably 50 Democrats voting yes and the vice president being in the chair. There is considerable reluctance on the other side to do that because people remember when they were in the minority. And what the Senate filibuster does is one of two things. Either really bad ideas don't pass at all, or you sit down and reach a bipartisan agreement. And that's why Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema have said under no circumstances will they participate in turning the Senate into the House.
Senator, one final quick question, and that is in our new poll with Marist and NPR, it turns out that Republican men and people who supported former President Trump remain the most against getting a COVID vaccine. What would be your message to them?
With regard to the vaccine, as soon as I was eligible, I took it. I've encouraged everybody in my state to take it. And this shouldn't be a partisan issue, either mask wearing or getting the vaccination. Getting the vaccination is important. I would encourage everyone to do that without exception. They're proven, safe, and necessary if we're going to get this pandemic in the rearview mirror.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Judy.
And for a Democrat's view now, Senator Chris Coons of Delaware joins me. Senator, welcome back to the NewsHour. I don't know if you were able to hear, but the Minority Leader was just making the case that the COVID relief bill signed today by President Biden is squandering money, that 5 bills passed last year, that there's $900 billion in the pipeline. In essence, that this is way more than what's needed.
Well, I'd encourage anybody who's interested in that debate to go and ask the American people. This bill is overwhelmingly popular. It's got the support of more than 70% of the American people and the majority of Republicans, not in the Capitol, not in the Senate, but a majority of Republican voters around the country, recognize that the pandemic and the recession are continuing to harm American families. So sending $1,400 checks out to something like 100 million Americans, funding a continued expansion of our vaccination program that has already, under President Biden, put shots in arms of a quarter of all Americans, safely reopening schools, getting kids back to school while vaccinating teachers and paraprofessionals, and providing another round of unemployment insurance support and investment in small businesses to keep them afloat or help them reopen, with a particular focus on restaurants. That's some of the many good things in this bill. It's popular. Our president has led us to this point, and I think it's going to lead to a strong recovery coming out of this pandemic later this year.
Senator, the minority leader also makes the point. He says that this comes at the wrong time to be spending all this money, because he says the forecasts are that the economy is just about to come roaring back. In other words, this is going to happen on its own, and Congress didn't need to do this.
Well, Judy, that's exactly the same argument the minority leader was making 6 months ago. There was a determined bipartisan effort by a group of senators to finally force that last bill, the $900 billion that we passed and that President Trump signed right at the end of December. This has been a long, hard slog. As President Biden will make clear in his first national address after his inauguration later this evening, he has been relentlessly focused on helping us recover from this pandemic. The pandemic was far worse than it ever needed to be, and the recession caused by it far more painful than it ever needed to be. But President Biden is doing a strong job of leading us out of it. I think saying the American people should simply wait around and hope that our economy is going to recover, that we're going to come out of this pandemic without making more bold, necessary investments in our schools and hospitals and businesses and families, is just the wrong thing at this time. So I was proud to vote for this bill, and I think it's essential for us moving forward.
Senator, we heard President Biden say on a number of occasions he hoped there would be bipartisan support for this legislation, but not a single Republican is voting for it. How discouraging is that for the president? You know him very well.
Well, Judy, Joe Biden is someone who didn't just run for office on bringing us together as a country and on working across the aisle with Republicans in the Congress. It's part of who he is. It's part of how he served as a senator for Delaware for 36 years. It's part of what Delaware asks of its elected leaders. And I know that Joe Biden will continue trying to work across the aisle, reaching out his hand. The very first meeting that he hosted in the Oval Office with members of the Senate was with 10 Republicans. And 2 of the younger Republicans, newer in their service in the Senate, said to me afterwards they were impressed and surprised at how well he knew the numbers, how well he knew their proposal. It was supposed to be an hour meeting, and the president himself is the one who extended it to a second hour. Even during the week of the impeachment trial, President Biden had over a bipartisan group of 4 senators to talk about one of our future priorities, infrastructure, and how we could make progress on that. It's part of who Joe Biden has always been, and it's part of how he hopes to bring us together. But frankly, the fact that this bill is so supported by the American people on a strong bipartisan basis, I think shows that he is making progress on things that are a priority for the American people, even if on this first big bill, he wasn't able to get any Republicans to come across the aisle and join him in the Capitol.
Senator, finally and very quickly, because I know you talk to Republicans probably more than most other Democrats do you get the sense that there will be Republican support for the infrastructure bill or for the bill with regard to racial justice coming along?
I literally had a conversation on the floor of the Senate this afternoon on one of the most senior and central Republicans for infrastructure, who was asking me whether I think there will be time for us to work together on some bipartisan initiatives around infrastructure. And I'm optimistic that there will be. I spoke with another Republican last night about a bipartisan effort that Senator Schumer is leading to pull together a bill to confront China and to make our country more competitive, investing in manufacturing and in research and in onshoring supply chains. There's a number of initiatives, Judy, where I think it is possible for us to make progress on a bipartisan basis, and I'm going to be engaged in those. It's what Joe Biden wants. It's what the American people expect. And I think it is what will make us stronger on the world stage if we're able to move forward with bipartisan legislation across a wide range of areas.
Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, we thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
We look now at President Biden's address to the nation tonight. Our Yamiche Alcindor is at the White House with the very latest. So, hello, Yamiche. You've learned a little more about this bill that the president signed this afternoon and what he's going to say about it tonight and how he's going to talk about where we go from here.
That's right. The president is going to be making a series of big announcements tonight as he has his first primetime address to the nation to mark the one-year anniversary of COVID lockdowns in the United States. The first big thing that he's going to be talking about is putting the nation on a path toward closer to normal by July 4th. It doesn't mean that we're going to have big concerts, but he's going to be talking about small indoor gatherings and making things look a little bit more normal than they were before the pandemic hit. He's also going to be saying that he's going to be using federal authority to direct all states to make all American adults eligible for the vaccine by May 1st. That doesn't mean that everyone will be able to get a vaccine by May 1st, but that will mean that all adults in America will be eligible to get one. The administration and the president will be saying that he expects to have enough vaccines to vaccinate all Americans by the end of May. The president is also going to be saying that he's going to be increasing the number of vaccination sites and vaccinators. To that point, he's going to be announcing that 4,000 troops, active duty troops, will be deployed to support vaccination efforts. The president is also going to be saying that there's a new government website that will be launched to help people make appointments for vaccines. That's been something that's been really problematic. And of course, he's going to be touting the new law that he signed today, that $1.9 trillion COVID relief package.
And Yamiche, you were telling us this is a part of a big push they are making on vaccine distribution. What is the latest on that?
That's right. There is a big bipartisan push afoot to really convince Americans that these vaccines are normal and are safe for them to take. Today, there are a number of presidents who put out a public service announcement. We heard from President Obama, President Bush, President Carter, and President Clinton. Here's what they had to say.
So we urge you to get vaccinated when it's available to you.
So roll up your sleeve and do your part.
This is our shot.
Now it's up to you.
Despite that push, what we're seeing is a number of Americans saying that they are still very hesitant to get this vaccine. Today, we released a new poll from PBS NewsHour, NPR, and the Marist poll. Here's what some Americans said. 30% of all Americans say they will not choose to be vaccinated. Of that number, 25% of Black Americans said they would not get the vaccine, and 49% of Republican men said they will not choose to get the vaccine. That being said, about 67% of people say that they already have gotten the vaccine or plan to get the vaccine, but those numbers are striking. We've talked a lot about the vaccine hesitancy among African Americans and among people of color, but here we see GOP men, GOP voters also very hesitant, so there's a lot of work to be done as we see those first ladies and former presidents with their message.
No question. I did ask the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, about the large number of Republican men reluctant to get the vaccine, and he made a point of saying that he believes in the vaccine and believes everyone should have it. But finally, Yamiche, I want to ask you about immigration. We know there is an increasingly large number of immigrants attempting to come across the southern border, including a large number of unaccompanied children. What is the Biden administration saying about that today?
That's right. The numbers at the border are spiking. This is another issue, really a dual challenge that the president is having to contend with as he deals with the coronavirus pandemic. The White House is saying they don't want to call it a crisis. They call it a human challenge. But what we see is a large number of unaccompanied minors coming into the United States and being held in facilities that are not made for children. They're being held in jail-like facilities. They're also being held past the number of days that the law says that they should be held in those facilities. There were a number of White House officials who went down to the border. They're now trying to scramble to get a plan in place. But this is really a logistics and facilities problem here. So the president's going to be talking about that later on this week.
All right, Yamiche Alcindor at the White House. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to this PBS NewsHour special live coverage of President Biden's address to the nation. I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight, we mark a number of firsts. It has been 1 year since COVID-19 was declared a global pandemic, and it's hard to comprehend all the ways our lives have changed. More than 530,000 Americans have died, a staggering number, affecting millions of American families. President Biden's first legislative victory became law when he signed it today. And just moments from now, he is expected to lay out how the American Rescue Plan will provide economic relief, especially to lower and middle income households. He will also look forward and make several announcements, including that every adult American will be eligible for a vaccine by May 1st. We'll be watching this first televised address to the nation from the White House by the president with our Yamiche Alcindor and our Lisa Desjardins. Hello to both of you. We are just seconds away, we're told, from President Biden speaking from the Oval Office. But Yamiche, in the few seconds we have, the president is going to be trying to turn our attention to the future.
That's right. He's going to be talking about how we can make it through this pandemic. He's going to be talking about putting the country on a path toward normalcy by July 4th. That doesn't mean big concerts, but it could be small gatherings. He's going to be calling out hate crimes against Asian Americans. He's also going to be talking about a new website that the country is going to be launching for vaccines.
All right, the President of the United States in the East Room of the White House, President Biden.
Tonight, I'd like to talk to you about where we are as we mark 1 year since everything stopped because of this pandemic. A year ago, we were hit with a virus that was met with silence and spread unchecked. Denials for days, weeks, then months. That led to more deaths, more infections, more stress, and more loneliness. Photos and videos from 2019 feel like they were taken in another era. The last vacation, the last birthday with friends, the last holiday with extended family. While it was different for everyone, we all lost something. A collective suffering, a collective sacrifice. A year filled with the loss of life and the loss of living for all of us. But in the loss, we saw how much there was to gain in appreciation, respect, and gratitude. Finding light in the darkness is a very American thing to do. In fact, it may be the most American thing we do. And that's what we've done. We've seen frontline and essential workers risking their lives, sometimes losing them, to save and help others. Researchers and scientists racing for a vaccine. And so many of you, as Hemingway wrote, being strong in all the broken places. I know it's been hard. I truly know. As I've told you before, I carry a card in my pocket with the number of Americans who have died from COVID to date. It's on the back of my schedule. As of now, total deaths in America, 527,726. That's more deaths than in World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War, and 9/11 combined. There were husbands, wives, sons and daughters, grandparents, friends, neighbors, young and old. They leave behind loved ones, unable to truly grieve or to heal, even to have a funeral. But I'm also thinking about everyone else who lost this past year to natural causes, by cruel fate of accident or other disease. They too died alone. They too leave behind loved ones who are hurting badly. You know, you've often heard me say before, I talk about the longest walk any parent can make is up a short flight of stairs to his child's bedroom to say, I'm sorry, I lost my job. Can't be here anymore. Like my dad told me when he lost his job in Scranton. So many of you have had to make that same walk this past year. You lost your job. You closed your business. Facing eviction, homelessness, hunger, a loss of control, maybe worst of all, a loss of hope. Watching a generation of children who may be set back up to a year or more because they've not been in school because of their loss of learning. It's the details of life that matter the most. And we miss those details, the big details and the small moments. Weddings, birthdays, graduations, all the things that needed to happen but didn't. The first date, the family reunions, the Sunday night rituals. It's all has exacted a terrible cost on the psyche of so many of us. For we are fundamentally a people who want to be with others, to talk, to laugh, to hug, to hold one another. But this virus has kept us apart. Grandparents haven't seen their children or grandchildren. Parents haven't seen their kids. Kids haven't seen their friends. The things we used to do that always filled us with joy have become things we couldn't do and broke our hearts. Too often, we've turned against one another. A mask, the easiest thing to do to save lives. Sometimes it divides us. States pitted against one another instead of working with each other. Vicious hate crimes against Asian Americans who've been attacked, harassed, blamed, and scapegoated. At this very moment, so many of them, our fellow Americans, they're on the front lines of this pandemic trying to save lives. And still, they're forced to live in fear for their lives just walking down streets in America. It's wrong, it's un-American, and it must stop. Look, we know what we need to do to beat this virus. Tell the truth. Follow the scientists and the science. Work together. Put trust and faith in our government to fulfill its most important function, which is protecting the American people. No function more important. We need to remember the government isn't some foreign force in a distant capital. No, it's us, all of us. We the people. For you and I, that America thrives when we give our hearts, when we turn our hands to common purpose. And right now, my friends, we're doing just that. And I have to say, as your president, I'm grateful to you. Last summer, I was in Philadelphia and I met a small business owner, a woman. I asked her, I said, what do you need most? I'll never forget what she said to me. She said, looking me in the eye, she said, I just want the truth. The truth. Just tell me the truth. Think of that. My fellow Americans, you're owed nothing less than the truth. And for all of you asking when things will get back to normal, here is the truth. The only way to get our lives back, to get our economy back on track, is to beat the virus. You've been hearing me say that for while I was running and the last 50 days I've been president. But this is one of the most complex operations we've ever undertaken as a nation in a long time. That's why I'm using every power I have as President of the United States to put us on a war footing to get the job done. Sounds like hyperbole, but I mean it, a war footing. And thank God we're making some real progress now. In my first full day in office, I outlined for you a comprehensive strategy to beat this pandemic. We've spent every day since attempting to carry it out. 2 months ago, this country didn't have nearly enough vaccine supply to vaccinate all or ever near all of the American public. But soon we will. We've been working with vaccine manufacturers, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, to manufacture and purchase hundreds of millions of doses of these 3 safe, effective vaccines. And now, at the direction and with the assistance of my administration, Johnson & Johnson is working together with a competitor, Merck, to speed up and increase the capacity to manufacture new Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is 1 shot. In fact, just yesterday, I announced, and I met with the CEOs of both companies, I announced our plan to buy an additional 100 million doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines. These 2 companies, competitors, have come together for the good of the nation, and they should be applauded for it. It's truly a national effort, just like we saw during World War II. Now, because of all the work we've done, we'll have enough vaccine supply for all adults in America by the end of May. That's months ahead of schedule. And we're mobilizing thousands of vaccinators to put the vaccine in one's arm, calling active duty military, FEMA, retired doctors and nurses, administrators, and those to administer the shots. And we've been creating more places to get the shots. We've made it possible for you to get a vaccine at nearly any one of 10,000 pharmacies across the country, just like you get your flu shot. We're also working with governors and mayors in red states and blue states to set up and support nearly 600 federally supported vaccination centers that administers hundreds of thousands of shots per day. You can drive up to a stadium or a large parking lot, get your shot, never leave your car, and drive home in less than an hour. We've been sending vaccines to hundreds of community health centers all across America, located in underserved areas. And we've been deploying, and we will deploy more, mobile vehicles and pop-up clinics to meet you where you live so those who are least able to get the vaccine are able to get it. We continue to work on making at-home testing available. And we've been focused on serving people in the hardest-hit communities of this pandemic: Black, Latino, Native American, and rural communities. So what does all this add up to? When I took office 50 days ago, only 8% of the Americans, after months, only 8% of those over the age of 65 had gotten their first vaccination. Today, that number is 65%. Just 14% of Americans over the age of 75 50 days ago had gotten their first shot. Today, that number is well over 70%. With new guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, that came out on Monday, it means simply this: millions and millions of grandparents who went months without being able to hug their grandkids can now do so. And the more people are fully vaccinated, the CD will continue to provide additional guidance on what you can do in the workplace, places of worship with your friends, as well as travel. When I came into office, you may recall, I set a goal that many of you said was that kind of way over the top. I said I intended to get 100 million shots in people's arms in my first 100 days in office. Tonight, I can say we're not only going to meet that goal, we're going to beat that goal, because we're actually on track to reach this goal of 100 million shots in arms on my 60th day in office. No other country in the world has done this. None. Now, I want to talk about the next steps we're thinking about. First, tonight, I'm announcing that I will direct all states, tribes, and territories to make all adults, people 18 and over, eligible to be vaccinated no later than May 1. Let me say that again. All adult Americans will be eligible to get a vaccine no later than May 1. That's much earlier than expected. Let me be clear. That doesn't mean everyone's going to have that shot immediately, but it means you'll be able to get in line beginning May 1. Every adult will be eligible to get their shot. And to do this, we're going to go from 1 million shots a day that I promised in December, before I was sworn in, to beating our current pace of 2 million shots a day, outpacing the rest of the world. Secondly, at the time when every adult is eligible in May, we will launch, with our partners, new tools to make it easier for you to find the vaccine and where to get the shot, including a new website that will help you first find the place to get vaccinated and the one nearest you. No more searching day and night for an appointment for you and your loved ones. Thirdly, with the passage of the American Rescue Plan, and I thank again the House and Senate for passing it, and my announcement last month of a plan to vaccinate teachers and school staff, including bus drivers, we can accelerate massive nationwide effort to reopen our schools safely and meet my goal that I stated at the same time, about 100 million shots, of opening a majority of K-8 schools in my first 100 days in office. This is going to be the #1 priority of my new Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona. Fourth, in the coming weeks, we will issue further guidance on what you can and cannot do once fully vaccinated to lessen the confusion, to keep people safe, and encourage more people to get vaccinated. And finally, fifth, and maybe most importantly, I promise I will do everything in my power. I will not relent until we beat this virus. But I need you, the American people. I need you. I need every American to do their part. And that's not hyperbole. I need you. I need you to get vaccinated when it's your turn and when you can find an opportunity. And to help your family, your friends, your neighbors get vaccinated as well. Because here's the point. If we do all this, if we do our part, if we do this together, by July the 4th, there's a good chance you, your families and friends will be able to get together in your backyard or in your neighborhood and have a cookout and a barbecue and celebrate Independence Day. That doesn't mean large events with lots of people together, but it does mean small groups will be able to get together. After this long, hard year, that will make this Independence Day something truly special, where we not only mark our independence as a nation, but we begin to mark our independence from this virus. But to get there, we can't let our guard down. This fight is far from over. As I told the woman in Pennsylvania, I'll tell you the truth. July 4th with your loved ones is the goal. But a lot can happen. Conditions can change. The scientists have made clear that things may get worse again as new variants of the virus spread. We've got work to do to ensure that everyone has confidence in the safety and effectiveness of all 3 vaccines. So my message to you is this. Listen to Dr. Fauci, one of the most distinguished and trusted voices in the world. He's assured us the vaccines are safe. They underwent rigorous scientific review. I know they're safe. Vice President Harris and I know they're safe. That's why we got the vaccine publicly in front of cameras, so for the world to see, so you could see us do it. The First Lady and the Second Gentleman also got vaccinated. Talk to your family, friends, your neighbors, the people you know best who've gotten the vaccine. We need everyone to get vaccinated. We need everyone to keep washing their hands, stay socially distanced. and keep wearing the mask as recommended by the CDC. Because even if we devote every resource we have, beating this virus and getting back to normal depends on national unity. And national unity isn't just how politics and politicians vote in Washington, or what the loudest voices say on cable or online. Unity is what we do together as fellow Americans. Because if we don't stay vigilant and the conditions change, then we may have to reinstate restrictions to get back on track. And please, we don't want to do that again. We've made so much progress. This is not the time to let up. Just as we were emerging from a dark winter into a hopeful spring and summer is not the time to not stick with the rules. I'll close with this. We've lost so much over the last year. We've lost family and friends. We've lost businesses and dreams we spent years building. We've lost time with each other. And our children have lost so much time with their friends, time with their schools. No graduation ceremonies this spring. No graduations from college, high school, moving up ceremonies. You know, and there's something else we lost. We lost faith in whether our government and our democracy can deliver on really hard things for the American people. But as I stand here tonight, we're proving once again something I've said time and time again, to the probably tired of hearing me say it. I say it to foreign leaders and domestic alike. It's never, ever a good bet to bet against the American people. America is coming back. The development, manufacture, and distribution of vaccines in record time is a true miracle of science. It's one of the most extraordinary achievements any country has ever accomplished. And we also just saw the Perseverance rover land on Mars. Stunning images of our dreams that are now a reality. Another example of the extraordinary American ingenuity, commitment, and belief in science and one another. And today, I signed into law the American Rescue Plan, an historic piece of legislation that delivers immediate relief to millions of people, includes $1,400 in direct rescue checks, payments. That means a typical family of four earning about $110,000 will get checks for $5,600 deposited if they have direct deposit or in a check, a Treasury check. It extends unemployment benefits. It helps small businesses. It lowers health care premiums for many. It provides food and nutrition, keeps families in their homes, and it will cut child poverty in this country in half, according to the experts. And it funds all the steps I've just described to beat the virus and create millions of jobs. In the coming weeks and months, I'll be traveling along with the First Lady, the Vice President, the Second Gentleman, members of my cabinet, to speak directly to you, to tell you the truth about how the American Rescue Plan meets the moment. And if it fails at any pace, I will acknowledge that it failed, but it will not. About how after long, dark years, one whole year, there is hope and light of better days ahead. If we all do our part, this country will be vaccinated soon. Our economy will be on the mend. Our kids will be back in school. And we'll have proven once again that this country can do anything, hard things, big things, important things. Over a year ago, no one could have imagined what we were about to go through. But now, we're coming through it. And it's a shared experience that binds us together as a nation. We are bound together by the loss and the pain of the days that have gone by. We're also bound together by the hope and the possibilities of the days in front of us. My fervent prayer for our country is that after all we've been through, we'll come together as one people, one nation, one America. I believe we can and we will. We're seizing this moment, and history, I believe, will record. We faced and overcame one of the toughest and darkest periods in this nation's history, darkest we've ever known. I promise you, we'll come out stronger with a renewed faith in ourselves, a renewed commitment to one another, to our communities and to our country. This is the United States of America. And there's nothing, from the bottom of my heart I believe this, there's nothing we can't do when we do it together. So God bless you all. And please, God, give solace to all those people who lost someone. And may God protect our troops. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I look forward to seeing you.
President Biden, do you consider this a new phase of the pandemic?
President Biden mourning and celebrating and challenging Americans all at the same time. And that concludes our NewsHour special live coverage of President Biden's first address to the nation from the White House. Please stay with us online and join us again for the NewsHour tomorrow evening. I'm Judy Woodruff. From all of us at the PBS NewsHour, thank you. Please stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.